Henry was born in a year of tumultuous change. The Spanish flu was spreading around the world like wildfire. As the pandemic cast its shadow over the world, in contrast, there was also a collective sigh of relief. The 4 years of World War I had come to an end, and for a moment, the world was euphoric. They were now, once again, peaceful times. In St. Charles, Missouri, it was the last time horses ran through the streets to the scene of a fire. Replaced by the combustion engine and the automobile. It was the land of Daniel Boone, a frontiersman of mythical proportion, known for his honesty and fairness, whether it be truth or fiction. It was where the full crew of the Lewis and Clark expedition set off on their epic voyage to explore the West. To Henry, it was a land of pioneers and integrity. Named after his father, Henry was the son of Henry Wilmes, the owner of the St. Charles Ice and Coal Company, seen here in the only known photograph of him, on the wagon he led around town. From elementary through high school, Henry attended St. Peter's Catholic Church in these brick and mortar buildings. His class sizes small and classmates very familiar.
His fatal flaw was his honesty, basically. He believed everything that Catholic Church ever put to him. Very, very ardent Catholic. Complete opposite of Dad. She had a real privileged, exciting, fun life as a kid on the river. That was what she did. She lived on the river. They went April 1st. They tried to be the first one to get in on April 1st to get wet and swim.
She was a free spirit and full of life, swimming across the strong current of the Missouri every day, only a few hundred yards from this bridge.
She was just a real all-around athlete, just like Dad. They played with us a lot when we were kids, taught us all how to swim first in the Missouri River, how to float. You learn to float and tread water and you never drown, that's what they said. They were at Blanchett Park, and Dad was playing tennis, and Mom, who didn't miss one day of school for her entire high school, had a free day where they let everyone off. And so she was there, and they met, and he asked her if she was going to attend the dance that night. And she said, "Yes, I am." And he said, "Well, will you save a dance for me?" And she said, "You can have them all." And then she said later she thought how that she made the comment, I was about as worldly wise as a shoehorn. And she was real. Mom was really just an innocent, real pure kind of people. She didn't like anything. She didn't cuss. I don't think I ever heard her cuss in her life. And she didn't drink. She hated people being drunk, and she wouldn't. They tried to get her to take care of them, and she would say, "No, they're drunk. I got a new dress on. I'm not taking care of her." But she was fun-loving, though. Very fun-loving.
It was that positive nature that brought them together and cemented their bond. Through thick and thin, highs and lows, almost never-ending arguing, they would always stick together. With World War II looming in America's future, at the age of 22, Henry enlisted to do his part in the epic struggle ahead. His assignment was to resupply the troops and do away with what they left behind. They were married in 1940, most likely when Henry was on leave. Shortly after their wedding, it was back to the war effort and being apart. Despite the happy occasion, some of his oldest friends, seen here, were the ones that would abandon him later in life when he needed them most.
We'll meet again, don't know where, don't know when, but I know we'll meet again some sunny day. Keep smiling through.
He rose from the rank of private to staff sergeant and found himself sent to faraway places he'd only heard about. In the wartime years, there were slogans everywhere about conservation, rationing, and not wasting precious resources. One that had a profound effect on him was this poster, which said, "Use it up, wear it out, make it do, or do without." After the battles in the Pacific, he found himself sent to places like Iwo Jima and Okinawa, in charge of disposing of the huge amount of military waste left behind in battle. Jeeps, tanks, and other equipment that took such brilliance and resources to make, driven into the sea for nothing.
But that said a lot about Dad, because I know he hated it when we wasted food. And he'd look in the refrigerator and be filled with food, half of it pushed to the back so he didn't know what was there. And then that just infuriated him to let food go to waste. And
Back from the war, he got to work, enrolled in college, and focused on building a family.
and then he kept going to college, just night classes while he worked.
That college was St. Louis University, where over the years his grades were exceptional. During that time, he proved his intellectual abilities while working at increasingly better jobs. Things seemed to be taking off for them. He and Dorothy May had 4 kids, grown a wide circle of friends, and the future was looking bright. His studies had prepared him to be the conscience of the companies he worked for, increasingly large in size and prestige.
Just big corporations, and then landed the job at McDonnell, which was McDonnell Douglas, as a contract auditor. And that was his dream job, because it was good money. And at that time, that was in the 50s, and he had 4 children. They'd just bought a new house, and he thought he was on his way. So
I know that some of you are on the first shift, and some on the second shift, and I appreciate very much your coming out and saying hello. This is a most important effort in which you're all involved, building these planes, which help protect the security of the United States, and also because of your efforts in the field of space. As Mr. McDonnell said, no one can tell exactly what the future holds there. And I congratulate you on what you have done, and I congratulate you on being part of this adventure. Thank you.
At the time, McDonnell was how America got to the moon, defended its airspace, and flexed its military muscle around the world. As a contract auditor at McDonnell, Henry's job was to find irregularities and discrepancies in the books. Or so it seemed. When he found the very problems he'd been hired to seek out, he was met with a surprising response.
And his main job was to match every social security number with an actual person, just like today. Sound familiar? And so he did that, and he didn't find any inconsistencies in that area, but he said they kept 3 sets of books, and he had access to all 3, and he saw like bigger contract jobs that were big amounts of money, thousands of dollars being paid to individuals that wasn't a legitimate thing. That was the fraud. But so he reported what he found to his boss, and his boss was a part of it. Told him basically, don't go any further with this, or they threatened to kill him. And I didn't find that out until he was in the hospital, and he thought he was going to die. He had heart problems, and I came in from in town to visit him, thinking he might not survive the operation, and he told me all about it then. Well, he said they came to pick him up at the airport in a limousine, and there were 4 men in the limousine, and they told him, this goes no further, or he said they threatened to kill his family and him, like wipe them out. And I mean, Dad didn't lie.
His conscience told him that what he'd found was a matter of national interest, a wrong that needed righting, and to go along with it would be nothing less than a sin.
Because that's what he asked the priest, how can I work for a company that I know is dishonest in doing this kind of thing? That was his choice he had to make. Stay and just look past it, or leave and take a chance of your family having financial setbacks, which they did. Yeah, they were his lifelong friends. They were all in each other's, some of them were in those wedding pictures, and they had this card party, and it was 5 couples who'd known each other from the time they were in grade school. And they'd get together once a month at each of their different houses. They were just mean to Dad because of he was outspoken about what had happened, and they didn't believe him, and they were, nobody talked about the government, and they thought when he was in the hospital, I remember Mom saying, yeah, they sent him a carton of cigarettes, kind of thing. I mean, they were mean. They didn't stand by him. When this started happening, when I was about 5, when he lost his job, because I like to eavesdrop, so I'd try to stand in the hall where they couldn't hear me, but the floor would creak, and then they'd say, Dorothy Owen, get out here, quit eavesdropping. But I did hear it, and I heard him saying things like, he never's acted like this before. He acts like he's crazy, and that Mom was say she was scared of him and stuff, too. So, but and everybody was always saying, Henry, you're crazy. Henry, you're crazy. That was the theme of our lives, I think. So, as a kid, you'd take advantage of that. Okay, Well, they could never agree on what we were supposed to do, so we just do what we want. He was so angry and frustrated, he started to write letters to the editor. He wrote a lot of letters to the editor there and talked about the bureaucracy and a lot of stuff, that then people started saying, what's wrong with Henry? Because he was always such a happy-go-lucky, taught all the kids in the neighborhood how to play ball. He was like father, the ideal father when Henry and I were growing up. They didn't get to see all the good stuff about Dad that I saw and Henry saw. And he and Mom fought because the philosophy then was a man supported the family, not the woman. The woman didn't go to work. The woman didn't go out and get a job. She stayed home, took care of the kids. And that was an aberration as far as he was concerned. And they fought about that all the time. So all that pressure just kept building and they'd fight. We pretty much woke up to fighting every day and arguing and with no resolution. And then they got a little physical. Something happened one day.
In the years Henry was trying to work through his issues, Dorothy May knew she had to tread water to keep the family afloat. Gender roles aside, someone had to bring home the bacon and pay the bills. She got a job at the St. Vincent de Paul Asylum in St. Louis, where she and the doctor she worked with thought it would be best if Henry sought the latest treatments in mental health at the facility.
Yeah, it was like One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, kind of, but bigger, fancier.
Mr. Wilmes?
Please follow me.
Are you ready?
And like the character of Randall McMurphy in Cuckoo's Nest, Henry knew he didn't belong there.
They made it seem more like it was a day treatment, but then when he came back, he had made ashtrays, because they do crafts and things while they're there, and he was liked that, but he hated the fact that he's sitting there in a mental institution making ashtrays out of clay. It just wasn't. He was really smart. He was brilliant. You could ask him anything about physics, anything. He was really a smart man, but I don't know. So he kind of felt reduced, I'm sure, by having to go and then getting the electric shock treatment.
The instability of Henry's struggle led to less than ideal circumstances for their kids.
We had really 3 sets of parents, and that was the other thing that aggravated Dad, because he felt like my aunt and uncle even wanted to adopt my 2 brothers because they couldn't have children. So that caused friction. Everything was, if you dropped a piece of lint on the floor, he did this to me one time in our basement. I had a towel and I just picked a little tiny piece and did that and dropped it on the floor. He went berserk. What, are you raised in a barn? Started screaming at me for an hour. But then when I wrecked the car, I did that too. I did a lot. I cost my parents a lot of money. But anyway, when I wrecked the car, when I was about 16, I wrecked our car and I cost my parents. I was a troubled child. But I walked in and he was standing in front of this. We had a breezeway, like porch, and it was summer and the sun was coming in through this. He had this screen that he put up and it was causing the light to refract. Or he was explaining this whole thing to me, and I was already had taken LSD, so to sit there and have Dad explaining this in scientific terms, what I was seeing, And and he didn't say anything about me being out all night. I had a boyfriend who, once I realized it, actually had groomed me for some years, and older man, and because I was a Catholic, you didn't talk about you didn't talk about anything to your children. You just expected them not to ever do anything. Anyway, long story short, ended up pregnant by him, and I was editor of the yearbook, and I had to quit school because you couldn't be pregnant and be in school, although half of my classroom was pregnant. They just had later due dates, so you could, they covered it up. But in February, I finished, we sent the yearbook out to the publisher, and then I had to go and tell the principal that I was leaving school. Yeah, and that was a big derailment in my life because it was an embarrassment. And here I was going to go to Iowa for writing career, and it took me a year to graduate because I had to do correspondence courses, but I got my degree from high school. And then I just spent the next, from 68 or 69, I got my high school diploma from a correspondence course. But then it took me until 1991 to get my journalism degree from the U of O. And I did that because I lived in California and junior college was free. And so I took all my requirements there, and I just kept going, little here, little, building it up until that when we moved to Eugene. Then I went to the counselor and said, what do I need now to get the degree? So finished up here, but it took me, but I'm glad I did it. I wanted to do it, so. And by then, he and Mom, I think, they still fought, but they also had times of quiet where they talked. And the 2 nights before he died, Mom said that he was like his old self. And he had 2 books he was reading. Can't remember what the one was, my brother might, but the one was, Is There a God? and he mentioned it to her. He said, oh, life is good, I'm reading, and he was comfortable, and he wasn't having any health issues, and died pretty peacefully, or very peacefully in his sleep, yeah.